Let's take a look at how we can transfer items super duper fast, at basically no limit. If we want times 100 hopper speed, we could totally accomplish that. I've referenced this concept in a ton of different videos, because it's how we can transfer items fast. Like on a shulker unloader, we use minecarts to unload the shulker, and we could just keep stacking the minecarts going down to make it even faster. But some systems actually need the extra speed. Like say we were crafting items at a rate of times 12 hopper speed. Well, we need to unload those items at 12 hopper speed as well to prevent a bottleneck. Or on this fast bulk crafter, we're using the same concept to dispense the items at times 36 hopper speed, allowing us to craft at 36 hopper speed. But we could double it using what we're talking about in this video to make it craft at times 72 hopper speed, or even faster. So while fast item transfer is not always a requirement, it can be used to gain massive quality of life speed upgrades. Or sometimes it can facilitate necessary things. Like what if you had a furnace system that had 2,000 furnaces? How are you going to move items in and out of that system fast enough? Or what if you had a piggy trader with 10 or 20 pigs just throwing items at you in mass? How are you going to move those items from point A to point B? It all comes back to hopper speed. A single hopper can move items at a rate of 9,000 per hour. And if you want more information on hopper speed, you can check out this video that I'll link here on the screen. But for today's episode, the fast item transfer, it all comes back to the minecart hopper. In Bedrock, a single hopper cart is equal to 4 hoppers. It can transfer items at a rate of 36,000 per hour. So since it pulls in items at quad hopper speed, we need to be unloading those items from it at quad hopper speed as well, meaning that we need 4 hoppers pulling from the hopper cart, which luckily we can accomplish simply by pushing the cart on top of 4 hoppers, using 3 fence posts. All we have to do is push it into the corner of the fence posts, and now all 4 hoppers can pull from it. But of course, we need to load items at quad speed as well, which is generally going to use a water stream or direct loading into a container. But there are other means as well, such as crafters pushing their items into a container. What's important is that the minecart hopper is only actually pulling from the block that's most centralized above it. So right here where this chest is, it's pulling from the block that doesn't have a fence post underneath it. So whatever block the cart is mostly sitting on, or mostly underneath, is the block that the cart is pulling from. The cart will never pull from more than 1 block. This is most important when you're pulling from a shulker box, since unlike a chest or a water stream, a shulker box can only be on 1 block. So this right here will transfer items from the shulker into the chests at quad hopper speed. But we can increase this, we can stack these going up, and since minecarts are an entity, we can cram them into the same tile. What's important is that each layer going up needs to have 1 additional cart hopper than the layer below it. So in this case, the bottom one only has 1 cart, but the second layer is going to need to have 2 carts crammed into the same tile, which we can accomplish by placing a temporary block with a rail, placing the cart, and then breaking the block so that the carts fall onto each other and end up crammed into the same space. So that right there is 2 carts crammed together. Even though it only looks like 1, there's definitely 2 there, which we can double check by placing in items and seeing that it's unloading these items at times 8 hopper speed. Since each cart is times 4, we're now unloading the items at times 8, which means that we need 8 individual hoppers, each pushing into their own container, so that it's unloading the carts at times 8 speed. None of the hoppers can be pushing into each other, because you need 8 hoppers going out to equal 8 hoppers going in. But now one caveat to this is that the hopper that is the most centralized above the lower cart is never actually going to push its items. So technically, this is unloading the items at times 7 hopper speed, not times 8. This is just because of the timings between hoppers and carts and how they push and pull items. The hopper that is directly above a minecart can just never actually push its item out. So while this is intaking items at times 8 speed, it's only pushing those items out at times 7 speed. Now, if the lower section got totally full and items backed up completely, eventually that hopper would push its items out, because the cart below it would no longer be able to steal its item before it has a chance to push. So what this means is that each additional layer is only adding +3 to the output speed, but it's still adding +4 to the intake speed. So if we have 3 layers, the bottom layer will have 1 cart, the middle layer will have 2 carts, and the top layer will need to have 3. So this will intake items at 3 cart speed, which is 12 hopper speed. But it will only output those items at times 10 speed, because 2 of the layers are missing one of the output hoppers. But even though there's a bottleneck, there's so much extra space between the carts and the hoppers that it wouldn't actually back up to the intake until you loaded in like tens of thousands of items all at once. The faster the system is, the less relevant the speed difference becomes. Like even this right here has an intake speed of times 12, and then an output speed of times 10. And there aren't very many systems that can actually keep up with the intake or the output. So it being slightly mismatched, it's still transferring items at a crazy fast speed. Just if you need hyper precision for whatever reason, it's just really good to know that each layer going up only has an output speed of 3, except for the bottom one has an output of 4. And at an intake speed of times 12, that's 108,000 items transferred per hour. And an output speed of 10 is 90,000 items pushed out per hour. To help visualize how fast that is, this will unload a full shulker in less than 60 seconds. But where do those items go? How do we consolidate it? A single double chest can only have 8 hoppers pushing into it, and that makes it really hard to access. Worst of all, a single chest can only have 2 hoppers pulling from it. So that right there is our first problem, our first bottleneck. If we merged all of the outputs into a single chest, well, we can't unload that chest faster than double hopper speed. And so that's where droppers come into play. Droppers tend to be the go-to for fast item transfer. Droppers can push into a container, or it can spit items into a water stream. And if we double clock a dropper with a fast comparator clock, that dropper is dropping items at double hopper speed, all by itself. So if you had 8 droppers pushing into a chest, that chest could be loaded at times 16 hopper speed. Or more importantly, this means that we can just have 2 droppers per layer and have those droppers pushing into a water stream to consolidate our output down into a single section. But really quick, as an example of consolidating the chests, if we have 2 hoppers pulling from the middle chest, loading the bottom one, well, that middle chest is being loaded and unloaded at double hopper speed. But the bottom one is being loaded now at quad hopper speed. And we could only pull items out of it at double hopper speed, since we can only have 2 hoppers underneath it. So right there, that's where our bottleneck would be. But of course, we could connect the top chest down to the bottom one as well, simply by looping hoppers up and around, because we wouldn't want to have a bottleneck in the middle as well. But now that bottom chest is being loaded at times 6 hopper speed. So as you can see, this totally works, but using chest to consolidate gets expensive and complex fairly quickly. And that's where droppers is not only a cheaper solution, but a much more efficient one as well. Especially since each dropper only needs to have 2 hoppers feeding it to make double hopper speed, and each layer only needs to have 2 droppers, since each layer is either times 3 or times 4 hopper speed. Really, the only downside to using droppers is needing to attach them to a fast clock in order to power them. But even that isn't very complex. And you could have each one of them pushing into its own container. You could have them pushing into different water streams to distribute the items in different ways to different places, or you can have them all pushing into the same water stream to condense the items down into one. It's all up to the project that you're trying to facilitate. An alternative design to a tower would be to go wide. If we mirror 2 of these sections, well, this right here is times 8 speed. Times 8 speed going in and times 8 speed going out. Not only is this a little bit cheaper and shorter, but it also bypasses the missing hopper speed that you have with stacking towers on top of each other. Since there's no hopper above the carts, there's no hopper that gets skipped. So this can be a really nice way to obtain faster speeds. However, there are 2 intake sources. So while the times 8 speed tower design has 1 extra cart and only has an output of times 7, it's pulling from 1 single block, allowing it to pull from a shulker box or from a very precise location in a water stream. Whereas the wide design is pulling from 2 different locations. So it couldn't pull from a shulker box at all. And if it pulled from a water stream, the items would probably be unevenly distributed. But we can stack the wide design following the same rules as before, except that each layer will have 2 sections. So each section will have 1 additional cart than the layer below it, and you will need to load each section one at a time. So doing the 2 carts on the left and then the 2 carts on the right, and carefully pushing them into place. And from there, everything else is the same. All of the hoppers will need to be pushing out into their own sources or their own containers to retain the hopper speed going out as the hopper speed going in. None of the hoppers can be pointed into each other. And then just like before, the 2 hoppers above the carts that are the most centralized above the carts will never actually be able to push out any items. So this right here would have an intake speed of times 16 because there's 4 carts at the top, but have an output speed of times 14 because 2 of the hoppers won't be able to work. So each layer going up will have 2 less of an output speed than the intake. And the intake is the 2 blocks that are the most centralized over both clusters of minecart hoppers. So you have 2 blocks that are the input source. And at times 16 intake speed, that's 144,000 items per hour, or 2,400 items per minute. And that's only times 16. We could reach times 30, times 40, times 50 if we needed to. And so it's always important to identify how fast of a system you actually gain benefit from. If you can only load the system at 10 hopper speed, well, there's no benefit in unloading it at times 20 speed or something. But like if you had a 2000 furnace smelter, that will smelt items at a rate of times 80 hopper speed. You would need a times 80 hopper speed output to keep up with 2000 furnaces smelting items. And so, just calculate how fast of a system you actually need and go accordingly. But let me know what kind of crazy fast systems you got going on. Are you building smelters, loaders, unloaders, or bolt crafters? I would love to know what kind of plans and projects you're a-messing with. Me personally, I would use this idea with that fast bolt crafter to make it craft items at times 72 hopper speed instead of 36. Speed for something like that is just great. But that's all we got for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate all of your support. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like, favorite, share, and subscribe. Always remember that you are totally awesome, but above all, don't forget to have fun. Bye-bye.